Aloha, welcome to WiTTS, What It Takes to Succeed. My name is Ann Koo, and in this episode, we will be focusing on interpersonal communication, conflict management and resolution, and self-regulation and awareness. I'm very pleased to have someone who taught me a very important fact of life, which is being aware of what conflict is and learning the different ways to resolve it. And this is a course called Conflict Management and Resolution, which I took as an online course one semester here at Maui College. Welcome, Sunny Gutierrez.
Thank you, Ann.
Sunny was my teacher, and I brought you onto the show because I learned so much in that course. And I understand you also teach communications.
I do. I teach oral business communication, which is a 130 level course for Maui College, and as well as a 200 level conflict resolution and management class that's for the sustainable science students.
All right. And so it all starts with communications.
It does.
Right. Why is that such a big deal? Can you tell us why it's important?
Well, communication is, when we do run into conflict, it's generally because it's been some kind of breakdown in the communication. And when we are faced with a situation where we might feel a little bit of stress, which is an indicator that something isn't right, it's our attitude towards that feeling of stress and how we want to deal with it that affects how we communicate those feelings. Because that's what indicates to us that there's something isn't quite right.
So the stress could be we feel something's not right, we feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
We feel maybe we're being misunderstood, or maybe we said the wrong thing.
Or we're being challenged, or we feel like we're losing face.
Losing face, yes.
In that. So any indicator, but we might not know at that moment what it is, and so how we react could even set off a chain of events. So when we're faced with something, it's that fight or flight. And so depending on how we react in that situation, it comes back to how we communicate our reaction to it. So it is being aware. You know, the first thing is our attitude towards conflict. And there's a quote that I share in a lot of the trainings I do out for organizations as well as with my students. And it's that I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it.
90% how you react to what happens to you.
We can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we react to it. And there within lies our need for good communication skills to help us manage when we feel like we're being faced with a conflict situation.
So I can imagine here are some possible reactions. One is I feel uncomfortable, something's wrong, and then I'll just ignore it and it'll go away. That could be one possible reaction.
And that could be avoiding because you just don't want to engage, but it could also be avoiding because you just don't know what to do, or that's just your kind of that almost being passive. But remember that conflict can still be, there still can be conflict with only one person feeling that there's a conflict.
Oh, the other person doesn't think there's a conflict, but okay.
If there's a perception by one party, conflict does exist.
It does exist, okay. Yeah. And what's another reaction
to conflict is to react in such a way that you assert your needs, which is generally, and if it's done in a collaborative way, to express that. And using responsible messages, when we are communicating with others, you know, someone sends out a message, you know, so like we're talking right now, we're having a dialogue. So someone sends out a message, and right now we're doing it orally, but in this day and age we do a lot of texting and email and such. So a lot of our communication maybe isn't face-to-face, but you send out a message, somebody receives it, and depending on what's going on with that person, how they receive it, because it gets coded with different messages as well, how they receive it and send it back. And it's a responsibility of both parties to continue back and forth on that dialogue until they're both clear on what's being said and what's trying to be communicated. And so it's being responsible for not only communication that I give to you, but also what you send back to me, and for both of us being engaged until we're clear on what it is we're trying to communicate to each other. And
if we're from different backgrounds, different cultures.
And being aware of those nonverbal communication that we have. And we were talking earlier about different family dynamics. You know, that very much influences how we communicate with other people, our lens of the world and how we see things. And forgetting that other people see things very differently than us.
And assumptions we make as well.
Different assumptions.
Like even I can imagine, even say, nonverbal, just text, the pace. If I don't hear something back from you, say my time frame is a minute.
Yes.
If I hear it back in an hour, I think, oh, maybe she doesn't really want this.
Or so then your
Right.
stress starts to increase.
Stress
you
starts
start to worry,
Right. And maybe your time horizon is longer, and I'm too fast. You just feel pressured. Like, could that be?
when in fact maybe I'm just thinking I really want to make a response that's appropriate. I need to process it. Maybe I need some more information. So I don't want to just jump on it right away. I want to stop. I want to think for a moment about what needs to be communicated before I do that.
And another example is if you type very quickly because you're on your phone, and then I have elaborate long paragraphs. So I think, oh, you're not giving me respect by responding with curt, short messages.
Right.
And you're probably thinking, oh, I don't have time to read through all this.
Exactly.
Right.
So being respectful or being aware of how other people like to communicate, because like our generation, I'll speak for myself, but I like bullet points. So if someone writes me these long paragraphs and stuff, I'm just like losing interest. Right. So but I know if I can communicate with my mom, she loves details and everything, but she's a different generation. So it's being respectful and adapting to whom you're trying to communicate with as well.
And also little things like typing mistakes. To somebody, it could be offensive, but to the other is, well,
it's informal communication, so what's the big deal? Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your work in mediation. You're a professional mediator. When do we need a mediator?
You need a mediator. Well, mediation is, when you look at the spectrum of how to resolve conflict, the continuum of different options for it. We have one end where, well, we can go to war or we can go to court.
Right.
But the reality is, when you choose that route, it's more about who has the most power but doesn't have a lot of control over the outcome, right? I mean, look at what's going on in the world right now with the wars we've entered in as a country.
Right.
I think the outcome was not what most of us expected. Well, that's the risk we take. And litigation's a lot like that as well. We may win in court, but what did we really win?
Right.
So as we move along the line, and there's arbitration, there's conciliation, and then we get to mediation. And right after mediation comes negotiation. And on that end of the spectrum, we have control over the outcome, and also the power is in theory more balanced. So a mediator is a third party who is neutral, who's not tied to the outcome, who helps facilitate the communication between the parties who are in conflict, and helps them determine their own outcome. To resolve the conflict. So it's structured, and it's looking at what are the goals of the parties, what are the issues, what are the feelings that are being brought forward, and getting that all out there, and then helping them problem solve to come up with a solution that will resolve the conflict for both of them. Now, we hear the term win-win in negotiation, and I always like to caution that that's not necessarily realistic, because we are looking at collaborating, we're compromising, and what we can do. What do we ideally want, but what are we willing to walk away from to make this right? And so a part of the negotiation process that the mediator assists the parties with is working through those steps to help them see the benefit of working through some kind of compromise, building the relationship, and then coming up with an agreement that solves the problem for them. So it builds on the relationship.
So this would happen in many situations, and I just want to continue with this in our last segment, but just to say that even in the classroom we have group assignments, group work, and conflicts can arise, and the team may need, we need to talk about the difference between a team and a group, but we'll come back to that later, may need a third party. Maybe it's not enough to just have the teacher be the third party. Maybe you need another third party that appears to be neutral to help mediate and resolve the conflict.
When there's conflicts within those groups, yes.
Right. So this is a great topic. We're going to come back and continue the conflict topic, but more on first you need to be self-aware and be able to self-regulate. Yeah. All right, we'll be right back after this.
I'm Troy Hetherington, and I'm a student at UH Maui College in the Dental Hygiene program. The dental assisting program here at Maui College is a year program, and it's a certificate program. The dental hygiene program is a 2-year accredited program. We have clinic at night and during the day sometimes. where we work on patients who come to the Maui Health Center and sign up for it, which they're wonderful, because without them we wouldn't get the hands-on experience. But they come in, we do everything from x-rays to sealants to the deep cleanings to prophy, polishing. Well, what I mean by educating our patients is learning how to like brush properly, how to floss properly, just basic education about periodontal disease. It helps us and it helps the community of Maui at the same time.
Welcome back to WiTTS. In this segment, I bring back Christine Korey-Smith, Director of the Learning Center, who in an earlier episode talked about time management and just slightly touched upon the need for self-awareness and self-regulation. And when I was talking to Sunny, it appeared it's very important to be aware that there is a conflict, that there is stress, otherwise nothing gets done. Christine, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Self-awareness I've heard of, but I've never heard of self-regulation. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So we talk about self-regulated learning. And really, it's a fancy term, but it just means that students are controlling for their use of time. They're controlling for their motivation. They understand that there's multiple methods to learn, right? And that not every strategy is good for every learning situation. So they're thinking about what is the best strategy to use in this situation. They control for their physical and social environment. So nowadays we have so much that distracts us, but they're really aware of the distractions and they control for those. And lastly, they're monitoring their comprehension. So our students, they're monitoring their performance. They're very very aware of themselves and how to proceed going forward. So the idea is that they don't get stuck on failing something. They really think about what contributed to that failure and how do I not fail in the future. So you have students that are really connecting and thinking. They're thinking about their thinking. They're thinking about their performance. And they're very aware of the progress they're making and what it takes to be successful for them. So yeah, the Learning Center, we break these apart and we really focus on them. We already talked about use of time, but we also go deeply with them into the motivation. What's driving them?
So in other words, what Sunny was earlier saying, 10% is what happens to you, but the 90% is your reaction to it.
Exactly.
So here is where we talk about student empowerment. It's not just, well, I just have to do this because I was forced to do it, but being really aware, for example, where I sit affects how I study,
exactly,
how I use my time, and I'm in control. And in terms of when you talk about study strategies, it's not just, let's just jump into it.
No.
There's so many more ways.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we talk to students about different ways that they can study. We talk to them about the motivation and the effective behavior. So if you go back to your, it's 90% is what you bring to the situation, how you perceive the situation. We really talk to them about that because some students tend to have a lot of negative self-talk, a lot of negativity coming through, right, their perception. So a situation happens or event happens and they perceive it negatively and their behavior is an outcome of that perception, not the situation. Right. When students realize that they have control of that behavior, they're controlling that situation, it can be empowering for students. It can actually help them to think that I have a little bit of control. Life isn't just happening to me.
Right.
I'm bringing something to it.
I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
I can change things.
And we talk to students about how do I change that, what's running through my brain, what's running through. And there's strategies that students can employ to make those changes.
Like what's an example of a negative perception?
Yeah, we have all the time. Students think that I'm not smart, right? I'm not smart, I can't do this, I'm not good in math. We come in with preconceived notions of ourselves sometimes. So, and that's one case that we have that happen. Students definitely think that students who get A's aren't working for it, but rather it's their ability. They're just smart. So we tend to think about things in generalities like that. I'm smart or I'm not, right? Instead of really thinking about what it takes to be successful in that situation. What is it going to take for me to pass my math course? What is the time I'm going to have to set aside? What kind of strategies should I employ to be successful at math? So it's really understanding that you know, being successful at anything takes a lot of work. And so we really start students with ideas of when you're practicing, like if you're a successful sports person, like Tiger Woods with golf, right?
Right.
And so he's not just a natural. He works. So we really think about what do people in sports do to get better? They watch their performance, they watch themselves, they video themselves, and they watch, and they think about what's my stroke, what am I doing?
Right.
And so we really say that's exactly what you need to do in learning, right? You need to take a step back and watch what you're doing.
Because too often we see the result, but we don't know what went into getting that result. So then here's back to communications, we make assumptions, right? We assume they're naturally gifted, whereas it's really about effort.
Yeah, we really have faulty beliefs about learning in general and being smart in general and what that takes. And so we try to really work, and this goes back to Carol Dweck's research on mindset. And we really try to talk to students about their mindset and their ability to learn and what it takes. And to begin to not, I mean, being a self-regulated learner is not comparing yourself to other people, but really starting to understand what does it take for me to be effective in this area, to learn this more deeply. And a lot of that, and you know, there's so many things that happen to students as they're coming in. They get caught up in classes that they don't understand how this relates to their career. We really help them to take a step back and think of the big picture. What is the class, what is it building for you? Most of our classes, especially general education, it's working on analysis, working on evaluation, thinking critically, problem solving. These are huge skills, right? I mean, these are huge processes that are being developed and that students are going to take into the workplace with them, right? To be able to solve, you know, the complex problems that we face today. So we really we try to help students not get caught up on these small details. Why do I have to learn this? Why do I have to do this assignment?
Because this would affect their motivation. Exactly. They get disenchanted, think this is so hard. Why do I need this anyway? Exactly.
So we have them tap into the big picture. And then also having goals for themselves, right? What are the long-term goals? And visualizing those, really thinking those out, writing them down.
And this is what you teach in your learning skills and interdisciplinary courses and workshops.
So obviously in the courses, which is 16 weeks, we go much deeper with students. When students, we do a behavior change project in the LSK and the IS classes. And this behavior change project, this allows them to focus on an area in this, right? Is it my, am I a procrastinator? Do I get distracted too much? Is it use of time? Is it motivation? And they really track their behavior, and then we analyze that data, what they're doing. And they go in thinking, I manage time poorly. And they come out going, no, when we look at the data, I'm not motivated to be here. I don't understand why I'm here. And so when we get to that, then when we start to peel back the layers, we can then look at strategies. How do I move forward in this area? How do I increase my motivation? And then that's what they do in that behavior change. They set aside strategies, they employ the strategies, and then we look at what happened afterwards.
So something simple, let's just give a quick example before we wrap up. It could be, you know, you're not a morning person. Something as simple as that.
Yeah, we always talk to students about tapping into their own rhythms, right?
The rhythm.
Everybody has different, and when to schedule your classes. If you're not a morning person, don't schedule an 8 o'clock class. And especially don't schedule in your hardest subject. So take your hardest subjects at your most awake time, when you're most alert. So we talk to students about all these different strategies, kind of make it come together for them.
So you're in control, you can fix it, you don't have to be led and driven by
You have time in your schedule, how much should you actually be taking off and doing all these kinds of things. So,
okay, so what we're gonna do is continue on this after we bring Sunny right back for the final segment. Please come back.
My name's Leah O'Brien. I've lived on Maui for almost 20 years. I'm currently pursuing an associate's degree in culinary arts and baking. It's wonderful to be able to enjoy the lifestyle on Maui and to work within the community, and then to attend a school that's constantly improving itself. Hawaii is a beautiful place to go to school. I would say our fruits and vegetables, our produce, it's becoming more green, it's becoming more sustainable. So that's a fantastic part about attending school here. Although we're learning the French techniques, we're also knowledgeable of different foods and spices and flavors that are more unique to the variety of cultures here. This is a life-changing experience for me. It's an opportunity for creativity, personal growth, and just daily challenges and accomplishments. Instructors are ever so motivational, supportive, and just very versed in their craft. So we're very lucky to have what we do here.
Welcome back to WiTTS, What It Takes to Succeed. In this final segment, we continue with Christine Korey-Smith on self-regulation and tie back in with Sunny Gutierrez on conflict management resolution. I just want to link what we were talking about, communication. When we talk about self-regulation, how would that work in a group situation? Is that important to know where you are, what you are?
Yeah, I think when you talk to most students about working in a group or on a team or having team projects, you'll see them, you know, they're like, oh, I don't want to do it. Right? They've had bad experiences in groups. And certainly part of that is because, and most of the time, when you talk to the students in DIG, why was it a bad experience? One or more of the group members didn't carry their end of the bargain, right? So whatever it was, they didn't do their part of the assignment. They didn't come to meetings. There was just, there's a breakdown there. So when students, each of them are coming, if each team member is a self-regulated learner, then you would expect that they're able to set aside time as a team to work on the project and then set goals for that time, that session, right? What they're going to accomplish. And then leave with each member, this is what I need to do, and when they come back and reconvene, it's done, right?
But it's also perception. I mean, I could be doing the best as I can. I'm very busy. I'm doing the best that I can. But other people can think, well, you're not doing enough. Is that right? And so what is the difference between a group and a team?
Well, we do get assigned, we do, as lecturers and faculty, we do assign a lot of group projects. Yeah. And there is a distinction between a group and a team. Now, a group shares a common purpose. We put them together, maybe they have to do a research paper, a presentation or something, and as you described, students usually come back because people don't carry their weight. But there's also a lot of anxiety about who am I in this group, and what is my role, and what are the expectations? Yeah. And that's where the difference is between a group and a team. A team, they have a shared goal, and there's roles that are assigned. So whether it's a leader, it's a recorder, it's somebody who is a little bit of like humor relief, somebody who does the research, or the different, so it's very clear what the different roles are that people have, and they have rules of ground rules, which is very similar to what we do in mediation as well. So if, for example, we agree we're going to meet every Wednesday at 9 o'clock, What if someone doesn't show up and a decision needs to be made? Well, maybe in the ground rules it says who's ever there, they get the vote, and that's how things will be decided. The use of how long we'll agree to meet, and all. So people that have a lot of anxiety because they don't know what to expect. And so by shifting from the group to the team idea of taking it to another level, it helps the groups alleviate a lot of the stress. And doesn't mean that there'll always be those students who don't carry their part, but if they've set it up, they've covered that. Should this situation happen, this is what's going to happen. And it helps the groups, I think it also helps the students feel, or even in the workplace, you feel much more empowered and capable, and you're able to self-regulate and practice those things and have a much better outcome.
If there are these rules, agreed upon rules.
Rules and roles and a clear goal. Whether it's a goal for each individual session when they meet, or and then the overall goal. So each little goal is going to lead to the larger goal. So breaking it down into little parts to work towards as well.
So it's not enough for the instructor to say, oh, here's a group assignment, find somebody to work with, go do it.
Well, in the best of world, the instructor is mapping this out for the students. You have this project to work on. These are the roles that your group members need to assume, right? And then the group can talk about who's going to do what. But that doesn't always happen.
Right.
So what's good is at the TLC, we work with students on how to survive a group. Right?
You do?
Yeah, how to survive a group project. And we talk about if the teacher doesn't bring it in, the students can bring it in. So they can know this is what it needs to have an effective group. And then they assign the roles, they break out the project, assign the roles, and make sure that people are comfortable with those. And it's from there starts to...
Is there an optimal size for a group? And the duration of time you have on the project. I mean, before I was assigning for 3 people, but then it was getting kind of hard, so I thought, I'll make it just 2 people. That should be easier than 3 people.
That's not really a group, though. 2 people is not a group.
2 people is not a group.
No, it usually needs to be more, 3 or more.
3 or more to be
3, but I think 3 is a very difficult number, too, because what if somebody drops out? So I would say somewhere around 5, actually, is a good number for a group project. And even as we we're talking about students, but even in the work environment, if organizations are finding they're not being successful, or they've got these different groups, or taking responsibility there to make sure that we're giving those tools to our employees, which ideally they're learning these skills when they're in school, but making sure we're giving them the skills to succeed. And it takes some time to organize. I mean, think of a successful sports team. And all the characteristics of that. They have a common goal, right? To win. And everyone knows, you have a soccer team, everybody knows their place, their role, what position they're going to play. And it's the same idea with a team. It's a work team, a school team. So there's that connection. So we have to help them be successful. And I think it's great that the TLC has that service to be able to help the students with that if they're not getting it from the instructor.
So the TLC is not just a place for testing.
Oh, no.
Or grammar workshops.
No.
You also have...
Although we do grammar workshops.
You do grammar workshops.
We want students to be able to,
Thank you for doing that.
to understand the mechanics of their paper.
Yeah. And coming back to conflict is that even if it's uncomfortable and you're stressed, because it's whenever you have more than one person, face it, right? That's your message. Because if you could solve that problem, solve that issue, you come out better on the other. You've learned something.
Absolutely. And do it responsibly. Take responsibility for your role in it as well. So instead of saying, you are ruining this project first, or you were late, or you say, I am feeling very concerned about us being successful with this project because we're not following the ground rules. And I'd really like for us to follow the ground rules.
So the language you use is very important.
So it's taking responsibility for it.
Use the I word. I feel. Instead of you. Okay.
Yes.
We covered so much today. Obviously, there's a lot more, and we're going to have it on our website, your links to your research, the research findings, workshops, and also your PowerPoint and tables are useful. I want to thank you both. And I hope you all visit our website and go to some of your workshops, which are free.
I hope so too.
Yeah, I think
and we're going to add Sunny to our repertoire.
Excellent.
Yes. I want to go to your group workshops. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and Join us for another episode. Thank you. Have a great day.